right. What if your startup's biggest levers, funding, growth, and talent are already in your hands? Today's guest will be unlocking the unbelievable strategy to be able to grow these areas. And as founder, Vijay Rajendran of My Startup System and former global head of portfolio value at 500 startups, he is the man to listen to. So, welcome to the Go for CEO channel, Vijay. How are you?
I'm great, John. It's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Awesome, awesome. Well, look, we look forward to really understanding, okay, hey, look, every business is different, right? From
Mhm.
manufacturing to service-based to AI, all these new AI startups that are coming out. Love to understand the business of VJ and what propelled you. What was the ideation of kind of going to this route of your life after
Yeah.
being in so many influencing type companies that you were a part of throughout your career?
Well, thank you. You're very kind. I have had an experience as a founder myself in e-commerce and in fintech, and then also working in venture capital for 5 years, starting incubators and accelerators around the world with 500, as well as leading the portfolio group, as you mentioned. And when I decided, what my next chapter was, the thing that really struck me is the thing that's holding us back these days is not so much technology. It's not even capital. It's the quality of leadership that we have in the world. And whether it's our new and emerging companies, whether it's in our institutions at a national or local level, or in our communities, the quality of leadership that exists, is instrumental in creating certain outcomes. So I sorry, the printer just turned on. Uh,
All right. Hey, what if your startup's biggest levers, funding, growth, and talent, are already in your hands? Today, we're unlocking them with Vijay Rajendran, founder of My Startup System and former global head of portfolio value at 500 startups. Vijay, thank you so much for coming on the Go for CEO channel. How are you?
I'm great, John. My pleasure, and I'm so happy to be here and excited to talk about leadership and startups and some of the cool things that I know matter to your audience.
Well, I know you were talking offline. You're an author yourself, and I'm getting into that venture this week, launching the 4A formula, untangle any challenge, and think like a CEO. So, plug there.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. But look, we love to hear about the ideation stage, right? A
Mhm.
gentleman like yourself that's been in, with your sleeves rolled up in companies, doing your own thing and being in front of or inside of companies that have
Mhm.
influenced the marketplace throughout the years. What led to kind of the ideation of what you're doing now with My Starbucks and all the things that you're doing?
Yeah, I've spent over my career a lot of time as an entrepreneur myself, as a founder in e-commerce and in fintech, and then later working in a corporate environment and also in venture capital for 5 years, building accelerators and incubators for startups around the world, and also in the portfolio role that you mentioned. And what I really took away was the thing that's in real scarce supply today isn't so much technology. It's not capital. But the thing that I feel is really limiting us is the quality of leadership that's out there in the world. And whether it's in our new and emerging companies, whether it's in our major national institutions, or whether it's in our communities, how far we go is a question of the quality of leadership that's out there and driving change and focusing on our most valued priorities. So that's why, in the last couple of years, I've spent so much time on coaching, on developing leaders, on recognizing that there isn't a thing that people are just born with. And that there's actually a number of things where we can all level up, we can all grow, and those areas are, as we can talk about, parts of the startup system. It is how you raise capital. It is how you lead sales and define go to market for your business, and also how you build teams, culture, and techniques and systems to be successful as you build an organization.
Well, it's very interesting, right? I love that you called out leadership because I think it's a quote, right? It's like, hey, strong leaders create strong times, weak leaders
Yeah,
create weak times, and weak times create weak
definitely.
leaders. And I don't know that it's necessarily weak times in enterprise or in the business world, but it certainly has become something that you see within companies, and not enough are going public anymore. And there's some other numbers out there that are real stats. But so give us a little bit of that insight, right? I guess why don't we go back a little bit and say, hey, when you were in these companies, who did you notice? Who tapped you on the shoulder and created an opportunity for you to become a leader?
Yeah. Oh, that's a great question. I think there's been a couple points where people have asked me to step up and into new roles, and sometimes into positions that I didn't expect. I can think of a couple times. So specifically when we were building a venture studio or a new venture creation business within a global bank, where we had created a new digital business group at BBVA in San Francisco to build, buy, partner, and invest in fintech. And I came into this opportunity with like a general sort of sense of, oh yeah, there's all these different levers to pull, and then being able to earn the opportunity to think about venture design and how we can say yes and to a bunch of different opportunities, be disruptive. That was like a really special opportunity. I had to work with exceptional leaders who would give you a lot of rope and do that. Fast forward a number of years after creating the corporate and innovation partnerships group at 500, there was, after some time, an opportunity to create a portfolio value team, and in a very customer-centric way, be able to think, what is it that we can do to increase the value and the MPS and things like that of the portfolio companies that we know. And I think in all those cases, it has to do with people saying, "Hey, there's a big challenge. Let's throw it at others who are willing to manage ambiguity and define itself what success can be." And that's something I encourage other leaders, whether or not they're CEOs, to do, and to allow others to like sort of like creep into your own scope. And that's something I see late stage startup leaders I work with doing, as well as CEOs of companies who grow from being the chief everything officer into eventually a chief executive officer.
I love that, chief everything officer, right? And so true. Until you hit a certain level, or even have the wherewithal that, hey, I don't want to be a solopreneur anymore. I want to
Yeah.
be able to be a business owner, and
Mhm.
delegate and bring on real talent, which is what truly grows, right? The business is the talent around you, not just yourself, because there's only so much you can do, right? So, all right, neat. Well, I guess the ideation part of this business seems to be, and I won't put words in your mouth, but you had these opportunities to learn. You were asked to take on certain responsibilities.
Mhm.
You observed people around you and what they were doing. Is that what led you then to have this role now, that you could feel confident enough that if there's a CEO of a company or someone that's emerging in the marketplace,
Yeah.
that they want to work with you directly? Is there? I know there's a book that you wrote too, so
Yeah.
if you want to
Yeah,
include that.
absolutely. So I think uh, you know, the work I get to do, it is, luckily a product of referrals and introductions, and your network and reputation matter a great deal. But I do believe I have built a bunch of different experiences and a body of work. Like you said, there's the book, there's the funding framework right here, which kind of speaks to the fact that there is a process. There's not serendipity, but in fact systems that you can bring together to help you fundraise successfully. There's also work I've been doing, first teaching on the Maven platform and helping startups within my past life with founder-led sales in the enterprise context, which sometimes they're new to. And so I started the Maven course on B2B startup partnerships. I think that was about 2 or 3 years ago. And then subsequently, I am a certified working genius facilitator, and also have spent a lot of time with co-founders in terms of navigating relationships. And so it doesn't have to be, oh, when we're a 20 or 30 person organization, we'll think about culture and communications and how we're going to do all these things right. It actually starts with creating highly functional and high performance in your teams, even when you're a two-person company. So I find that all of those things there can be introduced at the earliest level, as opposed to waiting and saying, once you are at Series A, you're going to grow up and start becoming professional, or once you are, at a run rate of a few $1 million a year, we'll start to, run this like a business, and a little less like a haphazard startup. Like so much of the quality of the work you do, the systems, and the style and culture that you bring to the company can be baked in and be part of your DNA. In fact, when you do that earlier, it becomes so much more durable.
Interesting. So, a couple of thoughts here, right? Go for CEO community. Vijay talked about leadership being so vital, right, to each and every component of this growth mindset. And then he talked about, hey, don't wait. The culture is being built at 1, at 2, at 50, at 100, whatever, right? Culture is being built right away. So neat. How now was there a time that I guess that you started to put a framework together? Because what
Mhm.
actually launched the business, right? What
Yeah.
made you think, okay, hey, it was an exit that you left and you didn't know what to do next, or you kind of already had a plan, or were you already within the company that you had and starting some other verticals?
It's a good question. I think it kind of came together very naturally when I was thinking about what are the things that business owners, that startups, that other people get stuck with. And this really occurred to me in my first company, which was a food-based e-commerce company back in 2012. Was in that startup, there was this sort of trilemma of, I didn't have enough customers, I didn't have enough like people, or I didn't have enough capital. And it's like, oh, well, if I had someone to help me with like this thing, then we would blow up in sales. Or if we had the sales, then we'd have the traction to raise money, right? There was this trilemma, this like set of three things that kept um coming up. It's like, oh, it's like a multi-part, like worse than chicken and egg kind of problem. So as I thought about that, like what breaks that, in a company I incubated and started at BBVA, which was one of the first digital banks for small business, thought about, okay, how do you address some of the things that hold founders or business owners back from growing, even if they're one person freelance company. I think it is, okay, how do we invoice our customers? How is it that I am managing the business more effectively? Do I have access to credit? Things like that. And again, at 500, when we thought about, okay, what are the things that we need to do? We need to have connections to find talent and have customer referrals, as well as access to capital, and we created this fundraising capability. So when helping founders who collectively raised over $100 million during one of the worst times to be raising capital, 2022, 2023, I realized, okay, there are things that we kept doing again and again, and that's what led me to write the book. So I guess it started there with the book, but then this reminder again and again that we struggle with go-to-market, we struggle with building teams, has just been this thing where I said, okay, I'm going to create some structure, systems, and approaches to helping the folks that I get to work with to be more successful.
Well, it's always interesting when you hear CEOs, entrepreneurs, founders, and even entrepreneurs, right? It's always like, hey, find a problem, create a solution. find a problem, create a solution, and have success in doing that. So really awesome stuff. Obviously the book, like you said, created process and framework around different areas that you saw as vital components for
Yeah.
those out there. So how did you start marketing this, right? You've said earlier that there was a lot of referrals, there's a lot of network that you have, and in
Mhm.
chapter 2 of my book, I talk about alignment, right? So once you've assessed where you're at, you align yourself with the right people in your network, and it's fruitful when those people are connected to other people, and those 6 degrees of separation start going. So, what were some of the ways that you marketed this particular business?
You know, I feel the best way for people to understand your business is for them to experience it in some way. And
Yeah.
so now I actually spent a lot of time just connecting with people and helping them through coaching. So I am a certified coach. I went through the UC Berkeley Executive Coaching Institute program and became an executive coach. And so one of the best ways for people who might know me from one place in my career where we interacted or intersected, right, but may not like understand the totality of my experiences or what I can do, and what I would encourage your audience to think about is, how can I give people a taste, a snapshot, an experience, and invest time in them and something they're working on, such that they don't necessarily need to give you business, but they can understand, what makes the experience of working with you magical. Now, that's certainly true in a services context. In a different context, it can be, I'm working on this product and I would love your feedback on the UI, on how we're talking about this. You know, you don't even have to come up with the ask first of, who in your network, John, would this be a fit for? You want to really run through what in customer development and user research we call the mom test. So in the mom test, I don't say, hey, this is really great. Do you want this? Would you buy it? It's like going to your mother and saying like, isn't this awesome? And she's going to say like, oh, that's so great. You're so smart and so creative. And I love that. And like, okay, yes, of course I'd buy it. Right. And, there are so many wonderful people in our lives who are trying to protect us or praise us. And in fact, we want to like understand a bunch of different answers. And so even if it isn't for them, right? You want to get the best, if not referral, but like ideas and direction. And that means like saying like, hey, when would someone use this? And how would they do that? And who is that person? And what's the context that matters here? Uh, how would one find them, right? And so you're asking these like, what, when, how questions, not like, do you like it? And do I like I right? And it's what's missing? And so you get this feedback when you're starting out and it's a great idea in your head, but probably the market is not going to love it instantly. And so that is a process of learning and getting feedback, if you're lucky to have it from individuals who might be experienced in your service or product area, to like give you that kind of direct input, so that you can tailor and adapt to it, and then end with, hey, you've given me a lot of great feedback. Can I come back to you with this once I've revved it, once I've had a chance to improve this, because you have like so many unique insights, and most people are going to say like, yes, of course, like they we're all grateful and sometimes flattered to have that kind of input. And so you get to come back and say, hey, I did, I made these updates, um, and then it's like, where would you start if you were me? And is there someone in your network that you could share this with? Can I forward you something that kind of captures the a description of the product, a one pager, something that this can be shared with? And so that is a longer process than I'm just going to like hunker down, build something, launch it, and I built it, they will come, right? But more successful than perhaps that initial approach of, yeah, let me just throw this out into the world and see what happens.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, you're not selling a widget, right? You're selling thought, you're selling experience, you're selling, next level steps, right? And kind of coaching and consulting with that person that you're engaging with. So, that first client, what was that like? That experience of that, and then a very intricate question is,
Uh-huh.
what did you charge? Because I think a lot of people in this space write a book, have great experiences,
Yeah.
get into the coaching and consulting business, but they're like, all right, well, what am I actually worth? Like, or was it
Hmm.
a market that you said, okay, I charged X and they told me secretly, hey, that's like kind of low. Or did you charge Y and they're like, they bucked against that. So what
Yeah.
was that
I
dynamic like?
Pricing is such a complex art, and partly informed by decision science. So yeah, I would say that I got pretty confused when it came to the latter. But I'll start with like how that first customer acquisition started. Now I believe in trying to identify pull from the market. And what that means is, it actually started when I was um, I was working on the book. I wasn't actively advising or coaching, but I had the opportunity to bump into a a founder who had been part of the community at a part of the portfolio at my previous firm, and caught up. Like it was fun to hear what they were doing. And then later I got an email about like, oh yeah, we could really use your input or your advice on this. And so I talked to her and her co-founder, and I talked to her some more. After 4 Zoom calls, she said, we really should be paying you for this. That's
Ah,
when I thought, oh, maybe this could be a business, right? So there was a little bit of that, and I actually asked like, you know, okay, well, I realize you're still fundraising and this and that. Like, what would make sense, right? I just kind of asked that, and then she threw out a number, which was kind of uh, like a few $100s an hour. And I was just like, okay, let's just like see what this looks like, because maybe what I think is worth a few $100s an hour, what they think is worth, let's figure out, right? So it again, this was like the first customer, which was more about like figuring out what it is you do, and for whom will it be valuable. And so I just started with that, and I was just like grateful to continue doing what I was doing, and then I realized the role was an important opportunity to do some facilitation between the founder and co-found their co-founder, uh, and these were extraordinarily talented people. But what I found was it was so important to also make sure they were aligned. And that's such a big word, but specifically means we value different things, but are we moving in the same direction together? And particularly when you have people working extremely hard, but on like totally different parts of the business, maybe engineering versus sales, maybe on product management versus something like fundraising. Then you spend 80% of your week on this other work stream, and then you're like, wait, why did? And then your expectations though are missed in some way for what you thought the other person was working on. This just happens all in a time, and I realized that pattern, and so this helped me really figure out the people side of startup system. So yes, it's about funding, it's about go to market, it's about people, but that people side has a particular quality to it. And this wasn't just like, okay, let's hash out our frustrations. This wasn't what was initially jokingly called couples therapy. It was actually a very productive way, and not like forever, but in a set of sessions to like really focus on, okay, this is what we're doing. This is like what matters. If we work backwards from this goal, like launching the product, pivoting it in some way, or maybe a fundraising goal. Wow, there's like so much that we need to do, and both agree, document, and hold each other accountable for in a healthy and positive way, as opposed to the alternative. And I think what mattered is this was a founding team that is still going, but had an attitude towards not like avoiding conflict, but creating like healthy healthy interactions and that allow them to have really good communication and focus on what was important to the business. Because I've seen so often people just avoid talking about things or saying yes, but then they don't do the thing because they weren't really committed to it. Or even worse, people like avoiding communicating at all, and the relationship turning acrimonious, and of course the business suffering. So all the stuff that we think of in terms of like why startups fail, it could be they ran out of money, or the product didn't like land. All of that is explained sometimes by how well people are building the product, selling it, or fundraising, and that can be a function of the traction, the pace of iteration and shipping, and the quality of communication that enables those things to either happen or not.
So, you talked a little bit about conflict resolution and communication and not avoiding the hard conversations, right? And that leads itself to back to leadership.
Yeah.
In a scenario, let's go down the path of in a scenario of a couple founders or two or three partners in a scenario. I've run into companies with my commercial banking hat where there's three or four partners, and sometimes two of them do the same thing, so they're kind of struggling against each other to find the way that they want to do
Oh,
it.
wow.
Sometimes you find it where
Mm-hmm.
one's in sales, one's in operations, and one's in marketing per se, right? And they're each taking each piece, and it looks like a well-oiled machine. From your perspective, in that scenario where you're working with someone, where you're trying to get them to communicate and conflict resolute, what are some things that you're doing? Let's get nitty gritty about
Yeah.
like where are you pushing the levers in that scenario?
Right. I think it starts with kind of separately writing down something to the effect of, here's where I expect the business to be in 12 months. Second step, here's the three things we have to do right in order to get there. Third step, here's what's missing now to be successful. So not a complicated idea, but people usually are reactive to what's happening in the moment, and they're not reflective in terms of like what's happening now versus what we should be doing to get there. They kind of know in the back of their head, but there's often a dissonance between those things. So let's say you have those three folks: sales, operations, and I guess the third category could be marketing, right? Or something like that. So they all have a different sense usually of what's missing. Like one person say, hey, the thing that's missing the most is, we don't have this manufacturing capacity. Or they could say, the thing that's missing the most is we don't have a salesperson in the Southeast. Like when people verbalize, here's what's missing, and then they even verbalize, here's what we need to do well, you then start seeing, this is what I expect from you. What I expect from John is that, we're going to do this thing. And then when you start surfacing this, it's like, wait a minute. You think the thing that's missing, or the thing that we need to do, it's how much of it, there's a difference between how much is on me versus how much is on you. And so sharing those expectations is really important. And then how we then take a step towards resolution is a step forward, which is commitments, which is based on what I'm hearing from others. Here's what I'm personally going to commit to do. Here's what I need to resolve, and then we hold each other accountable to those things. And the best companies have a culture of OKRs. This is this or KPIs or whatever are really important, because that allows you to say, hey, my objective is, even before we have a person on the ground, it's opening up the southeast, and I'm going to be in the market 3 times a quarter, right? And so that's the key. So the key result is, we're going to add, let's say, 4 new accounts in that part of the country. Here are the steps I'm going to do, and that is like really documented and clear, and it's something that you can either say later it either happened or didn't happen. And I think that's like one of the things is people feel like they're moving towards a lofty goal of, oh yeah, we need to grow here, right? But they don't necessarily take that additional step to understand, hey, this would be the key result in the service of that objective, and it's clear whether or not it happened.
Interesting. So, obviously you've gone through this journey and evolution of being able to kind of go from an intrapreneur or an entrepreneur as well,
Mhm.
and these experiences, and now you create this business out of it. You've got a beautiful website, really shares a lot of context and things that you could think about and do. I know offline you shared a little bit about a cool venture that you're in right now, and you can't really speak about it, but when you think about these things and ideas, when it comes to really implementing them and taking action and moving forward and working with someone like yourself, what are some of the things that you are seeing that people are doing so that they finally do take that inevitable step?
Yeah, this is something that's easy to describe and really hard to do, and that is actually living your values. So much of what's holding people back from their potential or creating the frustration that they have is they value certain things, but there's this massive gulf between the things that are important to them and the stuff that's going on in their lives, or the choices that they're making. And so whether it comes down to how you want to run the business, the kind of things you want to do, the stuff that's important matters a great deal. And that's because so often we're comparing ourselves to others. We're thinking, oh, I'm supposed to be doing this. We ask ourselves like, what will people think? Or even worse, we've never taken the time to think about, what are the 3 things I really value, and who is a part of that. And I think that's key for people starting their journey. It's key for people who are 3-4 years into a business and it's a grind and they're not sure how long it is till there's light at the end of the tunnel. It's like those values matter very much. So in my other life, where I am helping founders to incubate new companies, and one of the questions I have is, what will success look like in 3 to 5 years? So not in like 7, 8, 10 years where a business has been sold or IPO'd, and you're buying your 3rd home or something like that, right? Like people picture the magic of starting and the moment of success in the future. Then the middle part is kind of crazy. So I ask people, what's going right? What does success feel like 3 to 4 years from now? And if they say something about like, I just want to be solving this problem for customers, or I really think of how being a servant leader will be successful, or they talk about living my values through the kind of business we're building, and the impact we're having, because there's this need in the market we haven't seen fulfilled. Those things will carry you through, because those things are a calling. And even on the most frustrating, difficult days, you will rise to that calling, and that's really important.
All right, so I'm going to test you, right? As a consultant, coach type individual,
Yeah.
certified, and obviously these great experiences in the background. From what you just shared, right? What are some of the challenges that are in your industry, in your business, if
Mhm,
you think
mhm.
about your specific role and what you're doing in those lulls of periods of time
Oh
where
yeah.
maybe you're not in the mix and helping someone, you're looking for that next one and you don't know where that next engagement's coming from. What are some of the ways that you can share that?
Yeah, absolutely. So that is very true. There is a lumpiness and difficulty of, let's say, customer acquisition, as you point out. So if that's me, I typically will ask people, who's someone that I should be spending time with, right? So you need to, go to folks that are having good experience and trusting you, or you've worked with in the past. I think that's step one. So starting with those referrals and ways to get engagement. The second thing is like asking, what's the thing that's really keeping people up at night, and what feels like a pain point, and how does what you do relate to the lives of those those particular customers or clients. So that might be, how do we actually use AI in a company? And you don't have to be an expert in AI to understand it's a people problem, and a workflow and prioritization effort, as much as it is adopting this app or this LLM or that technology. So just to offer a few examples, that's where I'd really start, is like the people who know you and can help, and then really assessing in a customer-centric way what are the pain points, because it really depends on whether or not you have a product that is bought or sold. Right. If it's a product that is bought, you need to be top of mind and create awareness and make sure that the things you do are relevant to the things that your customers are already thinking about, versus a product that is sold, in which case, you reach someone and they hear and they see the value, and they push the buy button, or they sign up. And too often, people building their business don't know, or they have yet to find out if they have a product or service that is bought or one that is sold.
Hmm, interesting. I recently spent some money on LinkedIn boosting of a post,
Mhm,
and I hadn't done it really ever in that scenario. And it was interesting to kind of see the analytics, the
mhm,
impressions, what the engagement was, the
mhm,
percentages. And I hadn't really looked at it from that perspective, especially with the new book coming out. And talking to my web guy that we're launching a new website, talking to the editor and publisher, right? And trying to craft ways that we, even with AI, I'm using tools of like, hey, can you give me a different hook, or or is there a CTA, a call to action that I could implement either in the middle, at the beginning, or at the end? What is it and where will it impact someone
mhm,
to make that decision and take action? So really awesome stuff. So as a business, obviously you create a business and you start rolling with it and doing the things that you do in your specific industry. What is the time that you either bring in new talent for what you're doing, and
mhm.
how do you kind of relay that wisdom that you've had for so many years into other people, or is that right now yet not yet at that stage of where you're doing what you're doing?
Yeah, it's interesting. That's something I'm doing with companies I'm incubating, or with clients of Startup System. I am not at the stage yet where I'm growing and scaling the team. It's a good question of, like, what needs to be true for that to take place. But I think it still feels like so early on that journey. What I've
Mhm.
seen other people do is figure out like collaborations. And so with different collabs, you find, hey, we're going to go and facilitate an offsite, or we're going to be out there uh, pitching on something together. So I had something come through my network, which was, hey, can you do this like feasibility study and look at how this company was going to spin out a new digital business that it created. And I thought, this is like interesting, but I don't want to do all aspects of this project. I think I will ping two or three people in my network and ask, is
Mm.
this something I'd like to work on together? And we'll figure out how to, um, manage the project, as well as split uh, the fees for consulting. So I think those things are really important. The key is like, who do you love working with? And one of the aspects of that is figuring out, what are your areas of genius and what are your areas of frustration, and figure out who complements you in a way that helps you do more of what makes you great, and then they the same, and hopefully your genius is an area of frustration and the thing they don't want to do, and vice versa.
It comes to mind in my day to day. We're planning on a workshop that we're having,
Mhm.
and there's a accounting firm that's kind of a mid-tier accounting firm
Mhm.
that we're linking up with, and then there's a property and casualty mid-tier kind of middle market insurance firm, and then I'm in the commercial banking side. So we've joined forces, and this workshop that we're doing,
Yeah.
we're all going to kind of give a little bit of
Mhm.
insights to hopefully 30, 40 business owners and
That's
in an
cool.
intimate setting. So it really talks to, right, the joint venture, the collaboration. I think a lot of people forget, right? There's enough in the world, right? There's trillions of dollars out there in the marketplace. For you to collaborate with someone is not something that takes away. It only adds and brings value
Oh
more
yeah.
to the experience. So that's really cool. Do you have
Yeah,
something to
I,
share
I
about
I
it?
love that mindset. I think it's really important to think about how can you multiply opportunities for other people and them for you.
Yeah, yeah. So it's interesting time, and I think that's helped over the last probably 5, 10 years, at least that I've seen in business, that people are more aware of that. Maybe the pandemic kind of ignited some things of like,
For
hey,
sure.
instead of being solo, you can kind of connect, right, and do things together.
That's right. Definitely broke down some of the artificial boundaries we have created.
I love it. I love it. Well, Vijay, you've shared so many cool things, and obviously the book is fundamental. Can you share the book again, just to
Oh yeah,
put
sure.
it out there for everybody?
Yes. So this is the funding framework. It is how to secure startup funding with confidence. It drills down into the four things that are below the tip of the iceberg that people need to know around storytelling, organization, outreach, and closing. And that's the system that people need in order to successfully close money.
Well, when I talk to guys like you, I always jokingly say, right, like I'm in the debt world, so I love debt. Like, I show people how to strategically use debt for good ways of growth, right? And obviously, you're in
Yeah,
the raising capital side, right? So it's a
yeah,
little bit different worlds, but I think they collide in many ways of kind of
for
the
sure.
mindset and how you use those things. Because look, if you get an investor and there's a certain
Mhm.
amount of equity that you're giving up, and your burn rate is too fast, well, something's going to happen, right? So.
Yeah.
It might not be a good experience, and maybe debt is a better way. So either way, there's good tools and levers to push. So at the end of our conversations, we like to go over CEO. So C is
Mhm.
client experience with your current business and how you do that and what's that
Mhm.
value proposition. E is engagement, and O is for operational excellence, which are the tools and things that you're using from a day-to-day perspective. So from a client experience scenario, what can you say to our audience that says, hey, when you engage with VJ and your business, what would that experience look like?
So when you engage with me, it really comes down to creating a certain like lightness in your work and in your life, because there are things that are weighing us down in terms of like what we can't accomplish, and I break them down into, okay, how do we open these bottlenecks that might exist in one of these three parts of the startup system.
All right. All right. I like it. And then engagement from, I know, a client engagement
Mhm.
to vendors that you work with, these
Mhm.
joint collaborations and JVs that you're doing. What are some of the ways that you like to engage? Are you You mentioned maybe offsite things. Are you,
Yeah.
doing dinners with people? What are the ways that really kind of help people know that they engage with VJ?
Yeah. So I do a number of things, one to many. So I have startup system at Substack. Obviously, there's the book, and I do book talks with different accelerators and programs like that. And then separately, yeah, people want to have this like one-on-one experience with executive coaching and the kind of startup system coaching that I implement. And then that allows them to directly see the change in their business and have both a sounding board, an accountability partner, and someone who can help them just up level to the next stage.
All right, awesome stuff. So in operational excellence, when you start a business, it's always neat, right? Like, hey, what
Mhm.
am I doing for accounting software? What am I doing for CRM? What am I doing for XYZ? There's some ones that kind of bring it all together as well. I know in the marketplace. What do you do as far as kind of keeping yourself in line and on the right path with your operations?
Oh, that's one of those things where, for some of us, we kind of do all the stuff that comes easy, and then maybe we kind of catch up later on, oh, I need to like be doing this operation or that. So for me, I think like having a few great like tools around managing my calendar, having an ability to track conversations, to like keep up with the narrative. So it can be combination of like note takers and Calendly and things like that. I think like having something that just reminds and keeps me up to date is super important. And I use Calendar a lot. So I'd say the connective tissue between all these things, when I think about my own personal like operational excellence, is using the Eisenhower decision framework. And the Eisenhower decision framework or decision matrix is really separating things into what's important, which means do it now. What is important and urgent, so do it now. Important, not urgent, calendar it, schedule it. Not important but urgent. I think about those things as either I delegate it, or my version of that is ask my intern GPT to do it instead of me, right? So that's one of those things. And then there's a bunch of things that are not important and not urgent, but like come my way, and it's tempting to kind of like do those things. But I'd say delete those.
I love it. I love it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Go for CEO community, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, subscribe right now. Go ahead and hit that like button and share this communication, right? Share this episode. Vijay brings a ton of wisdom, and I'm super excited that you are on. Now, how do people get a hold of you? What's the best way? Are you a LinkedIn guy? Are you just a purely email guy? Like, what's the best ways to interact with you?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn. Also, Startup System Substack is a way to follow what I'm writing, thinking about, creating, and also my website, which is mystartupsystem.com, is another way to get in touch.
All right, I love it. Well, hey, Go for CEO community, the book is coming out, the 4A formula, untangle any challenge and think like a CEO. I've had hundreds of opportunities to meet with CEOs and founders like Vijay. Super excited to have this book come out and hopefully grace the world with something of value, a process to be able to untangle things and really take it a 4A formula. It's just a simple 4 steps, just like Go for CEO. It's the mindset. It's driven by mindset and do a big thing. So thank you so much for coming on the Go for CEO channel, Vijay.
This was super fun. Thank you, John.